Nice.
Oh, man.
Man, it's good to be back. I love when we take a break, but I also love that it's good to be back. Happy New Year to you guys. Glad to have you here.
Yes.
Sorry about that. I was distracted. Happy New Year. There's 3 of us today.
There is 3.
It's pretty odd. I'm not used to this.
You know, so when I was in 3rd grade, I remember that we had this I had this amazing teacher, and he would always, at the end of the year, he would challenge the 5th graders to come back. And this was like forever ago, so I don't know exactly how long. But 3rd grade was definitely an eternity ago, way before the internet machines and the Twitter machines were invented and all that kind of stuff. But he would come in and he would challenge the 5th graders who were in his class to come back and do this like math challenge. So because he had this cool way of learning all of your multiplication facts. So did
he use a song?
He did. He used
always.
He used 10 of them.
There's always a song with it.
He used 10 of them. The rap one was absolutely terrible, but I remember it because it was the 4s. I think it was the 4s.
Right.
I think it was the 4s. And so you could learn them so quick. And every year those 3rd graders killed the 5th graders in that. But I do remember that because Mr. Finnegan was his name.
Finnegan, what a perfect name.
He wasn't, he's probably Irish, but I mean, he didn't come off like, hello, my name is Mr. Finnegan. Like, he was just a good dude.
Let go of my Lucky Charms.
But it was crazy because my 1st grade teacher scared the life out of me. Like, literally had a young girl in our class pee her pants because she didn't want to use the bathroom because she was so scared. So I won't say her name. My 2nd grade teacher was equally scary. So at this point, here I am, this like traumatized 3rd grader shaking, like, I don't want to go to school ever again, Mom. And so can I just start doing labor? Like, can I go to, I need to go to like a tech school. And then I get to 3rd grade, and this teacher changed literally everything for me, the whole dynamic. And so that Mr. Finnegan, I don't know if he's still alive. If he is, I'm so sorry that I just offended you by thinking you're dead. But
I think he's okay.
I think he's going to be okay.
I think he'll be okay.
I remember him distinctly because he changed the entire dynamic of my educational life. Now, it wasn't like everything was great after that, but he changed it from me literally hating school to loving it in the course of 2 days.
What I think is amazing is, like, study after study after study says 3rd to 4th grade, those teachers are the pivotal teachers. Like, if you had a good experience in those grades, chances are your outlook towards education will be positive.
Wow.
If you have a negative, it'll be bad. My 3rd grade teacher and my 4th grade teacher was Miss Latham.
Oh, she was both?
She was both, right. Because well, first off, I went to Rockford, a public school in Rockford, Illinois, which is by far the most corrupt school district known to man. And I knew that in 3rd grade. I knew it was corrupt. And this thing was absolutely backwards corrupt. So anyways, 3rd grade, it was like we were our own rooms. 4th grade, we got an influx of kids. And so like the 6, we still don't know if we were the good kids or the bad kids. But 6 of us were separated and put in the 3rd grade room, but taught as 4th graders.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say you were the bad
No, but we were all straight A students. But
in the 3rd grade
I know.
room.
So anyways, all I remember about this teacher, Miss Latham, God bless her, is she knitted and crocheted. She was this single woman, probably had a ton of cats. I'm just making an assumption here. And she knitted a lot. And one day I opened my locker, and I had this like weird thing, and it said worry ward. Whenever you have worries, give it to this. And it was by her. And none of my other classmates got one. I just got one. And so I went up to her. I was like, what's this all about? She goes, I can tell on your face when you worry, and you worry a lot, and so I wanted to give this to you. And just the fact that she as a teacher was noticing me beyond just the grades, and was able to do that. That was pretty awesome.
Awesome.
4th grade was also the year that I challenged a boy to meet me at the flagpole at 3 o'clock after school.
Did he go?
Fight. Well, we didn't get out of school until 3:30, and so both of us missed the appointment. We did not fight, and we didn't, which was probably good. But he stopped making fun of me for my poor spelling, so I got that going for me.
Well, that's awesome. So,
all right, that's a long intro to say we have a guest with us today who is a teacher, my son's favorite teacher, Mr. Klotz.
My daughter's one of her favorite, too. She has one other one that she loves, but again...
there's a competition.
Not really.
I need to know who this one is.
It was Mrs. Pratt last year. She loves, adores Mrs. Pratt. And so I think because she had a baby then there, so if you can have a baby, maybe Lily will be
That's for another podcast. We'll get to that.
Very true, very true. But no, we wanted to bring you on, because you've made an impact in our kids' lives. And we see that you every day when I pick up my daughter, I look outside and you've always got a smile on your face. You've always got joy, and every kid loves you. And so
No
I guess
pressure. No pressure.
no, well, but I guess I see the value. It's like, but as we look at it, and as we talk about legacy and family here, we keep thinking about the fact that you're adding value not just to them now, but to who they're going to become. And so we wanted to talk to you a little bit about your story, hear a little bit about you, and also the phenomenon that you are, if I can put it that way.
Yes.
Do you like that word?
I like that word, yes. Use that again if you get a chance.
I will. The phenomenon.
He actually has a plaque at a local restaurant here called Pluckers.
Really?
He does. Would you like to tell us about that? Well,
Yeah, tell us
about yourself first before
Yeah.
we get into the legend
the legend.
The legend on the plaque, yes. Oh, guys, thanks for having me on. I know, as I mentioned before we hit start on this thing, I really was looking forward to this. Got my singing voice ready and worked on some jokes as well. But again, we'll get to that. There's lots of time. Guys, thanks for having me. My background isn't anything special. I graduated college. Travis and I talked about our graduation year from high school, 1992.
92.
And then
I feel good now.
Yeah,
So good.
And off I went into the world of sales, trying to make as much money as possible. Everybody leaves college. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Certainly teaching was not on my list of things that I'm interested in at the time. It was about how much can I make and how quick can I make it and buy the house and the car and
Oh, yeah.
all the material goods that one wants leaving college. About 12 years go by after what I would say is a successful medical career in sales. And it was just a rat race. Never was fulfilling. Never gave me what I was looking for in a career outside of the paycheck. And I knew there was something else out there. And I always kind of saw myself in a teaching or a leadership role, assuming it would just be in a leadership role in sales. And fast forward, we, as many teachers are, kind of called to the profession. And thankfully, with the support of my wife and a lot of long hours transitioning out of that world into the teaching world, here I am. And I'm 7 years into this thing, and sometimes it feels like just yesterday, and other days it feels like an eternity. But more often than not, it really does feel like it's just begun, and I don't plan to do anything else.
That's cool.
Teaching is what I want to do, and even on the hardest days, you sit back and reflect on the day and why we got into the profession. And it's still, I think, for all the right reasons. I think any teacher that you talk to was led to this, called to this profession in one way or the other. Your wife probably could speak to that as well. And we all get into the profession with this grand idea of we want to save, change the world through these young people. And you hope that you're making a difference. And to y'all's previous comments, I appreciate that. I'm glad to know that, what I'm doing in the classroom is making an impact on young people in both of your homes. And,
my son would trade me in for you as a dad any day, by the way, just so you know. Just so we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
You are the rock star. If you sold a picture at the book fair of you, it would be over his bed, I promise you. That might be a good fundraiser, PTA.
Yeah, but not like a calendar, not like a fireman calendar thing.
Jason Klotz calendar.
Yeah, like every second
January.
month. We could have some fun with that.
Yes, we could. Yes, we could.
You've been around long enough to know I'll do stupid things if it'll benefit our students at
You better
school.
believe it. You
I
better
love
believe it.
Yeah. So anyway, fast forward once again to my name on the plaque across the street. That's, I think, what everybody's waiting to hear more about. And
Yes, I want to know about this plaque.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even set out to achieve a goal such as that.
You're just that kind of guy. You're just that good.
I'm the kind of guy that spends way too much money every year on buffalo wings.
Hallelujah.
Seriously.
Sounds amazing right now.
So the restaurant we're talking about, if you don't know, there's a local joint here in Texas called Pluckers, and it's kind of become just this. It's a great restaurant. In fact, my daughter Jenna, she had you, didn't she?
That was my first year of teaching. She was in homeroom with me. Wow. Yeah. It seems like a long time ago.
Well, she just got her first job at Pluckers.
Yes.
So you'll be seeing her there
That's
on
awesome.
a regular basis.
That's awesome.
So anyways, I believe the plaque has to do with being one of the top spenders at that restaurant in that calendar
It's
year,
not a goal,
correct?
You're really, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Are you serious?
I think it's $1,500 in a calendar year. And that's food only. That doesn't include anything else that you may purchase at a place like that.
So awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and there are a couple of others in your listening audience that made the plaque with me. I don't stand alone on this plaque. There are several others that
Stand strong.
that also stand strong with me.
Well, going back to my son, he every time we have a chance to go out, he says Pluckers because we have to catch you. Like, he wants our family name on that plaque. And I'm like, dude, I'm a pastor. I don't make enough money.
Exactly.
I do not make enough money for that.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Anyways, the reason why we had you on is, we as dads are in the trenches, and I think you get a unique perspective on kids and families and just how things have shifted. So, 7 years ago, technology was basically computers in the classroom. Yeah. And now technology is, cell phones. And kids are coming in fourth grade, third grade with cell phones.
True.
And just the impact and difference that technology is making on families and what you're noticing just from your experience on families, and what are you seeing in families that's good? What are you seeing in families that's bad? So we just wanted an outside perspective, not throwing any families under the bus, by no means using any names, but just kind of in a broad sense. What are you seeing that's happening in North America in the families, particularly in Olson Elementary and Allen, Texas?
In the 7 years, I've seen an incredible shift with young people, and you're right. We have gone from 1 or 2, maybe 3 computers, desktop computers in the classroom, and that was the technology that we had access to, that we'd build our lesson plans around, and somehow shift those young people through what I would say is kind of a station, and they would get their time with technology. But now it has turned truly into everyone. I'd say a good portion of the young people, even in 4th grade, have a device that they would call their own, or they have with them at all times. And it seems like this says, and we've heard it all before, and you see examples of it constantly throughout our day and our week, that these kids are tethered to these devices in such a way that, and I see it at home as well, and it's very concerning. But they, from a family standpoint, we see the shift from parents parenting to almost a point where a lot of the parents feel like that's part of what we as teachers do or should be doing. We should be parenting in the classroom along with teaching the curriculum or the content.
So how would you separate those two things out? Because my wife being a teacher, she would resonate with that a lot.
Yeah.
What do you see as like the teacher role versus the parenting role, and how that should be, not how it necessarily is?
I think from a standpoint that I think the lack of parenting that goes on in the household is very detrimental to these young people, because it's too easy. So parents are so much busier now.
Right.
And it has become, over the last several years, way too easy to put some sort of technology in front of these young people. And that keeps them busy for incredible amounts of time. And from a parenting standpoint, I'll be the first to say, I've done this. Here, play this.
Right.
I've got to go do this for a couple of hours, so do this. And so I see it, and we're all vulnerable to it. What we need to, as parents, look at and appreciate is how much time those young people are actually spending on those devices or that technology, because time gets away. My own son, who's a middle schooler, recently said, "Dad, I was only on the computer for 2 hours, when in reality it was more like 4 hours.
Wow.
I mean, they lose a sense of their sense of time when they're just playing. And I think Fortnite's another example. You guys did a great podcast specifically on that.
Fortnite.
Yes.
We're still dealing with that right now.
Yeah.
The Wi-Fi sucks.
yes.
It's glitching! My son's yelling to strangers about it glitching. I just,
Yeah.
They can help.
So it's, I think one of the other things that I've noticed, and you being at Pluckers as often as you are, I'm sure you notice it as well, the number of families that they sit down to eat dinner and the parents are kind of talking but kind of checking their phones, and the kids are all like completely consumed on whatever device they have in front of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that if there's one sacred time that we should have as a family, it should be a breakfast time or a dinner time where it's just like, that's our time.
Yeah,
it's like no technology gets into this. It's our time.
Yes.
And it breaks my heart when I see so many families that are so exhausted that's their only option. Is like, I don't have the bandwidth to connect with the people that I love. So here's a piece of technology. Watch Nickelodeon. And, do you notice that too?
That is the one time that we hold sacred in our family, that whether it's at home or at Pluckers or anywhere else, we set those devices aside and we take advantage of that time. Are there exceptions to that, like your example? Yes, if we're just completely spent from the day, we're exhausted. Hey, let's just go out to eat. We're too tired to cook. Let's just go out and do this, do the meal and get done and get home. But you're right. Yeah, you look everywhere. I saw examples of it at Target yesterday. I mean, mom and dad holding all the things, waiting to check out, and here's two young people, probably no more than 4 or 5, each with a device in their hand.
Wow.
And
it's
amazing. I had an administrator friend of mine tell me recently, Klotz, you have no idea the things that we're seeing at the kindergarten level. We have what is now a situation where fine motor skills aren't there in kindergarten, incoming kindergartners. They can't color inside the lines. They can't use a pair of scissors to cut. They can't even tie their own shoe, but they can swipe on that phone and they can turn it, they can turn on YouTube or find that game on the device. And, that's a shift as, there's going to be a big shift in how we do things in the classroom and at the administration level due to that fact. We can't go to these homes and make those changes for the parents. So we have to adapt to what we're seeing coming in, and that's going to continue for years to come.
Let me ask you this question. So I heard a correlation. You read a bunch of, and the stats continue to change, but the correlation between child depression and technology is increasing. Do you see that in the classroom? Like, do you see kids who are already emotionally distraught, or they have to be, they're almost like more needy? Are you seeing things like that?
We talk about it at times as teachers. They are removed from their entertainment space. We have so much to compete with as teachers. All the entertainment options that these young people have once they leave that building are endless. As young people, the three of us would go home and we'd say we're bored and don't know what to do. We'd go outside and play, or we'd go play in the mud, or but whatever. Exactly. Any of those options, especially as boys. But now it seems like there's an endless stream of entertainment options for these young people, and so they're never at a point where they have to be creative or think of something to do.
Problem solve.
They don't.
It's problem solving.
It's going to be an epidemic. Being resourceful and learning how to problem solve are two of the biggest things I see in the classroom that these young people struggle with. They're too quick to say, "Hey, Dad, I don't get this," or "Hey, Mr. K, I don't get this." Well, I just handed you the paper. Did you even read the question? I kind of read the question, but I don't get it.
Right.
They just want that immediate help. And they don't want to work through the problem solving.
So what happened when technology was supposed to be the answer? Like, technology was supposed to help education. Technology was going to everyone be smarter, and we have all of these things, and it is coming back to be, I think, a curse, an addiction, like a brutal, like the reality that we're bringing into our kids' lives at a younger age, a device that is geared towards, more than anything else, programmed to convince you to become addicted to it.
Yeah.
And we just kind of give it to them going, it's a phone.
Well, it's like people don't want to miss out. Well, I see their kids doing it, so I want to, it's that same thing when we were kids, the same competition, but just placed onto a technological device of like, how do we now begin to detox these kids from this? Like, I mean, because again, like you said, the school, the smart boards, the pads, they're everywhere. So then they go home, and we've just caused them to be entertainment overgrowth.
Junkies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this though, because I'm hearing this, and I called you a phenomenon before, and the reason I called you a phenomenon is doing the statistics. Yeah. Phenomena. Isn't that just phenomena?
You can't go there and not finish it.
That's true. That's true. So, but I did look up some statistics, and I noticed that as I kept seeing the pattern throughout the years, now we're at about, if it's safe to say, about 20% of teachers are males. Correct?
I think that's a good number.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what do you think that does? And this is no demise to women at all, but we strongly believe in the fathering, for men to step up and lead and be the leaders that they need to be and support their wives. But are you seeing, does that create another issue inside the school too with the guys who, I mean, do you see the discipline issue with the women or the men? I mean, like, help me out. Does that create another issue or another paradigm in the school with male teachers versus female teachers? I'm trying to be sensitive how I say it, so I'm not trying to say something like wrong.
Well, okay, so I'm gonna try it this way.
Go for it.
Men and women are wired different.
Yeah.
Chemically, physically, you name it, they're wired different. So they bring different things to the table. The gifts of a woman, particularly in the younger forming years of education in a child's life, are essential. But I think there's something that a man can bring to that story early on, and that's why I think men in the elementary role is huge.
Yes.
Particularly as so many families are losing dads and dad figures.
Yeah.
Because I don't care. My wife can say the exact same thing that I say in the exact same tone and bring the same discipline hammer as I do. But if I say it, my kids respond different. And there's no rhyme or reason to it, except that maybe we're pre-wired somehow, some way, to just resonate different with that masculine authority figure than that female. And so how does that play out in the school, and what's the detriment as fewer and fewer men are getting into the teaching roles? Is that fair to say?
That's what I meant to say.
There you go.
Yeah, no,
Ditto.
I got it. High fives. Very good. There is something to be said for the nurturing way of teaching that a female teacher can bring to the classroom. Now, will I give a hug, or will they feel loved and appreciated in my classroom? Yes. But there's a dynamic that I think a female teacher can bring to the equation that maybe a male teacher can't. But, like you're saying, there's something about the authority of a male teacher and the response that I've always received in the classroom. When it's time to get down to business, you put your teacher voice and your dad voice kind of combined together, and you deliver your expectations. Now, are the students always immediately responding to that authority dad teacher voice? No. But I think the balance is important. Now, I would like to see more male teachers in the elementary school environment. I think men typically gravitate to secondary schools because of the coaching opportunities.
Right.
Because there are more males there. I love being in elementary school, and I hope that that's where I end up as an administrator one day, because I think that male influence needs to exist on the elementary school campus, especially in a district like Allen. I have always traditionally got, and this is outside of both of your children. I've always been given the more challenging students, often male students, behavior students, those that typically struggle behaviorally, academically as well, but more on the behavior side, just because I've had a way with them. For me, that's the best part about what I do. Is I love those challenges. I love to work with those young people, because there were, like a lot of us, I was a challenged, young man. And I had good parents that were, there all the time, and they gave me good guidance. But even then, I was a little bit challenged at a young age. So I can appreciate the challenges that, that they bring to my classroom. And I work well with those young people. So I think there's a place for the male teacher in elementary school, and I think there's room for more. And I really wish and hope that we can recruit more males to the profession. Teaching is becoming more challenging for different reasons, but I don't think that should discourage others from pursuing the profession.
Guys kind of step up to the challenge more often than not.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's what I hope. So you have a question?
Yeah.
Bill?
Well, I was going to say, earlier before we were on recording, you had mentioned, in the very beginning, it's hard. Everyone loves the accolade. They want to try and get the accolade. Hey, you're making an impact. And one thing that really always resonated with you, or it resonated with me about you, was just the fact that you're speaking into who these kids are going to become. And you made mention that it wasn't the first couple of years, but eventually you got some letters, and it literally changed the course of some of these kids' histories. Is that true? Is that safe to say?
You get in with this amazing idea of how you're going to change each and every one of them for the better. And, you want to see feedback or results. Hey, am I really doing that? You don't know if you're making the impact. And then, sometimes months and even years later, you start to get the emails. Hey, Mr. K, it's so-and-so from, this year. I want to let you know that thing you used to teach us about or talk to us about, and usually it's related to like life lessons. It's not about, World War II. Now, hopefully that sticks too. But this is more about life stuff, because I love, I try to balance the content of the subject that I have to teach them, and of course that's important, but I also balance, work in as many life lessons as possible.
Yeah.
And I feel that's important. And I really, truly want these kids to come to school and not hate the experience. And even if I can go so far as to say, somewhat enjoy the experience. I mean, they have to be there for 8 hours. We all have to coexist for that amount of time. And if I can make that experience just, more of a positive experience, hey, let's get through this. Let's enjoy it. Have a little fun. I've always said to my students and to my coworkers and to my wife at home, if I can balance what I need to teach them with some fun in doing it and let them have that positive experience of school. Because, if you ask most kids in this country, do you love school? We know what the answer would probably be.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. When I used to teach world history, I would say how so many young people at the age that I would be teaching, I would say they would do anything to get an education. I mean, that is their way out of poverty or their situation. And they would do anything to get an education, whereas we just obviously here in the U.S. take it for granted.
Yeah.
These young people find it to be, I got to go to school, I got to be there all day.
So I'm gonna for one of the final questions. This is what I'd love to throw your way. Let's just say, for giggles, that you throw out, hey, I'm having a meeting and I want all the dads of my fourth grade students to show up. And you had their attention for, let's say, half hour, because that's all you're going to get. And keep in mind, I'm not talking about reality where 5 dads show up and they're the good dads.
Yeah.
I'm talking about every dad rolls in.
Okay, good.
All right?
Okay.
And you have a chance for a half hour to tell them or to encourage them or to inspire them or whatever about being a dad. What would you, from the position of as a teacher, what would you speak into them at that moment?
Oh, I would only have 30 minutes. I'd try to cram in so much in that 30 minutes. And I would encourage them more than anything, because being there with them is not the same as being present in the lives of their young people and their kids. Being present, always trying to make that time with them quality time. And I would encourage them to mentor their young students about what it's like, and thinking ahead. I always try to talk in terms of, here's what the real world will tell you. Here's the feedback you would get if you were a parent's age. But I would encourage those parents to never stop parenting. and find that time with them, that quality time, especially when it comes to multiple children, which we all have.
Yeah.
I have made it such a point in our lives to spend quality one-on-one time with my children. I would say to those dads, take advantage of all the opportunities of time that you have with your young person. Mentor them in the ways of the world. Encourage them to embrace, their academics, because here we are at a time when I tell my own kids, man, you have so many students, peers around you. They couldn't care less about academics. All they want to be is cool. Do I look cool? Do I act cool? Do I run with the cool kids? I said, you're going to have an advantage if you actually put a little effort into. Yes. You'll rise above the rest, even more so now in this generation than compared to our generation, because we were self-motivated at a young age, and we were driven by different things. And so really those would be the words of encouragement that I would give those parents. Just be there with your kids, parent them, and just shower them with love. And, I think between those three things, that would be the point I would try to drive home. I would certainly encourage them to get the electronics out of their hands, minimize the screen time. They can earn those privileges.
Right.
I don't think those are bad things, but I think earning it, responsibility, accountability, these are all things that we are often seeing a lack of in the classroom.
Creating some boundaries for them.
For sure.
Boundaries. I feel like there's another part of this that I want to try and challenge the dads who are out there or the guys who are walking in a career. I love that you said you were in another career for 12 years and you just didn't find it. And I think we have so many men who are gifted in teaching and sharing hope, basically just sharing hope with these kids, showing them
life into them.
Of what it could be. That if you're out there going, man, I hate what I'm doing. It's a new year. It's 2019 when you're listening to this. And so now it's time, the challenge is out there. If you feel like this might be the next step, God may be challenging you to step out and change your career, change his path, and begin to speak life, not into some, even in high school, but into these formidable years. We talk about it all the time, that anybody under 13, you're really getting that time to really invest in them and speak in a way that you're not going to be able to when they get older.
Right.
When their peer group takes over and begins to be their main source of speaking information into them.
Yep.
Whereas now, they are reachable. They're teachable at this point. So I would challenge you that if you're out there going, man, I don't know what I want to do in my life, look into it. See if this may be where God's leading you to do it.
Yes.
And if it's not a full-time teacher, become a coach. But coach not for the win, coach for development of men.
Yes.
Correct.
And development of women. And there's 100 ways to get involved and break from your routine. And I promise you, like you said, almost always that comes back. In a few ways. One, when you're coaching young kids, you'll see right away where your flaws are because they'll come out. Like if you have an anger issue, it'll come out quickly and you'll realize, I've got to get this under control. So there's self-improvement there, but more importantly, man, you have a chance to change trajectories. Is that a word?
That's close enough.
Okay, you got what I was saying there.
Trajectory. Trajectory.
Yes.
You have a chance to change someone's direction.
There it is.
There you go. We'll go that way.
Well, this has been a good day. We've been so blessed to have you here. Thank you so much. You have anything else to add?
Dude, I really appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for stepping up and for being willing. I would love to dig into the true journey behind the career change. Like you kind of hit it, and I think that's fantastic. But I would love to pick at that a little bit because I think there's a lot of guys that bought into what society says. It's all about money. It's all about prestige. It's all about the bank account. And wake up one day, probably in their mid to late 30s, and go,
this isn't it.
And I got another 30 years of this.
Yes.
I got 30 more years of this. This is not what I want. So I'd love to pick into that.
We'll be having you back on
For
very
sure.
soon. That would be good to have you on and hear how you kind of process through that.
Of course.
At some point in the future. We'd love it. So.
Absolutely.
All right. Known legacy.
Mr. Klotz, so grateful to have you here. Amazing teacher and Pluckers World Purchase Champion.
I'll go with that.
I like that very
All right.
much.
Take care.
Have a
Thank
good
y'all.
one.